Summary of A Crown This Cold and Heavy, written by Stacia Stark. Chapter 1. Click. 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 The sound scratched at my senses. My eyelids were so heavy, it took everything in me to open them, even to slits. Sunlight stabbed into my eyes, and I instantly slammed them closed. But I'd gotten a glimpse. A carriage. I was in a carriage. Moving. I tensed my hands. Tied. My mind whirled. What was I doing here? His mouth twitched. You're sitting there, half-drugged, clamped in fey iron, yet you're actively planning my murder, aren't you? Ignoring him, I turned my attention to the other man in the carriage. The one I hadn't yet been able to look at. Cavis stared straight ahead, as if he wasn't present. Blood slipped from his nose in a steady drip. Dread quailed in my stomach, my throat clamped shut, and the world spun around me. Cavis had done everything he could to let Lorien kill him before he took me. Now, he looked like he was gone. What did you do to him? The man tooted. That's from fighting the compulsion, I'm afraid. Regner will be very interested to see this. My breath shuddered from my lungs. It might not look like it, but Cavis was still fighting. Looking at him was agonizing, and the man who'd put me in this carriage was obviously enjoying my pain. I turned my gaze back to him. What exactly do you want from me? Perhaps I'm interested to see who the hybrid heir is when she's not clamped to the side of that fey bastard. I gave him a pitying look. If you think he'd beat you in a fight, just say that. This is unnecessary. His smile was cold. Let me guess. You think he's coming for you? I knew he was. He angled his head. Do you truly believe we didn't have something special waiting for the bloodthirsty prince, your brother, and anyone else stupid enough to travel with you? They're not going to rescue you. By now, they're all dead. So I suggest you begin learning how to cooperate if you want to save yourself some pain. Lorien. Demos. Acinia. Oh gods. Cavis. The web on his face. The web that meant he was one of the human king spiders. Those who were often planted in foreign courts as children. Lorien's words drifted into my mind. Cavis was from Jadenmire. One of Galen's men found him wandering alone and barefoot in the forest. He was the only survivor. He'd only reached 6 winters. And Regner had already gotten to him, twisted his mind, used his filthy magic to plant a seed in Cavis that he could use at any time. Fury blazed through me. And this time I managed to keep my eyes open. They met bright blue eyes. Eyes that laughed at me. I knew those eyes. The man smiled at me, and I went still in the way of prey. His smile widened. I'm not exactly sure how you've woken so soon, he said, but it's rather impressive. I kept my expression blank. Dark hair, wide shoulders, and those amused blue eyes. I'd met him at an inn soon after Lorien and I had docked in Gromalia. I'd been consumed with bitter jealousy as Lorien spoke to a beautiful fey woman, and this man had approached me. You're far too beautiful to be frowning into the flames. How long had he been following us? Who was he? And how quickly could I slit his throat and jump from this carriage? My stomach clenched, and I clamped down on the urge to heave. It was a lie. They weren't dead. I would know, deep in my bones, if they were. I would feel it. He was trying to get under my skin. Don't believe me? He shook his head. You will. His fist flew toward my temple, and the world turned black. Lorien. The creature smashed through the labyrinth walls, tossing stone and fey iron aside as if they were nothing. For colossal legs, gnarled and twisted, the bark-like skin resembling ancient tree trunks. Those legs ended in wickedly curved talons that gleamed in the light orbs. Acinia ducked, narrowly missing a rock to the side of her head, a rock the creature had kicked at her. That told me it had some level of intelligence. Watch for the traps. Demos roared as we sprinted toward the entrance. It's almost on us, Acinia panted. She tripped, and Demos caught her arm, pulling her faster. I brought up the rear, guarding their backs. The creature's fetid breath dampened the air, and I cursed. We need to make a stand. Not happening, Demos snarled back, ducking beneath the low ceiling of the next cavern. Priska needs you. You're our best chance to get her back. I didn't bother arguing. He was as stubborn as his sister, and it would just waste time. Silver flashed on one of the walls, catching my attention. I recognized these caverns. We'd hidden a few dead bodies around here somewhere. Where are the guards we killed? Behind us, the creature roared. Acinia let out a choked sound that might have been a laugh. Something tells me the monster set off one of the traps. Hopefully that distracts it for a while. The bodies are 3 caverns to our left, Demos said. I think. I have an idea. Medinia. Do you need anything else? I smiled at the innkeeper's wife. No thank you. I'm going to rest. Well, be sure to lock your door. I kept the smile on my face, nodding as I closed the door. I'd need to find new accommodations soon. This woman was far too nosy. Her insistence on making sure meals were delivered to my rooms had made it much too difficult to eavesdrop on drunk patrons. I ground my teeth. Eavesdropping was my best chance at finding the smallest seed of information about Jamek's whereabouts. If we could find Regnar's false son, we could prevent. He didn't say the words we were all thinking. With the way the creature's vicious horns were slamming into the roof of the caves, they could crumble at any moment. We'd spent 2 days down here, moving as quickly as we could. Regnar had arranged for the creature to find us at the worst possible time when we were running out of food, water, and patience. I risked a glance over my shoulder, aiming my power in a thin bolt toward its feet. I had so little left, I was almost completely drained. Useless. The creature roared, falling back, but not before I caught another glimpse of. It looked like something out of my worst nightmares. My worst nightmares before I'd met Priska. Now, the slobbering beast behind us was nothing compared to the knowledge that she was gone. That she had been taken. Right in front of me. Demos wore her hourglass around his neck. And he was moving faster, while my own steps slowed. The hourglass was countering the Fey iron. Because it recognized his blood. Use your power, I snarled. I am. My power is telling us to fucking run. I didn't even have the energy to curse. Acinia launched herself over one of the traps, and I followed, sending another bolt over my shoulder. The creature snarled. Priska had already lost too many people. Of the 3 of us, I had the best odds of survival. I'm going to distract it. I lunged over one of the traps. Get out of here. Medinia. A knock sounded on my door. The innkeeper's wife. Again. My skin burned at her intrusiveness, but I pasted on a smile and crossed the room. The boy who blinked at me was unfamiliar. He was also dressed in Regnar's colors. I went still, summoning my fire until my hand heated, the warmth a comfort. Are you Medinia Pharaoh? My hand heated further, and he swallowed as if he knew just how close to the edge I leaned. 1 second to kill the messenger, another 3 to drag his body inside. My bag was packed, and I'd already climbed from the window my first night here to ensure I'd never be trapped. Message from Her Majesty, he said, slowly holding it out. My heart stopped and then restarted again, pounding double time. How exactly had that found me? I wasn't even due to cross into Aprotha until 3 days from now. I'd found a woman who'd helped me dye my hair the moment I'd left the Fey lands, and it was now a dark brown. I kept to myself and had sent no messages except to let Priska know where I was. The safest approach would be my first plan. And yet, my hand rose as if on its own, plucked the message from his hand, and left a coin. My curiosity would always be my downfall. Go, I said. He went. Turning, I moved back to the window, watching as he left the boarding house, glancing over his shoulder. No one followed him. I opened the message. Medinia, a clever woman, would notice Gromalian forces gathering in the eastern sector of Thoberia. You always were far too clever for your own good. No signature, but that wasn't surprising. Besides, I'd recognize Regnar's queen's handwriting anywhere. The question? Was she leading us into a trap? I'd seen Clara commit a number of atrocities over the years. This could be her attempt to regain trust with Regnar. He would enjoy sentencing me. And he'd certainly enjoy watching Priska burn. My mind provided me with an image of my father's head hitting the ground, directly before the rest of his body. I fisted my hand, crumpling the letter. Before we'd left the camp, Lorien had given us all fey-bred pigeons to ensure we could communicate. But Priska needed to find the hourglass. Tebris wasn't an option either. He'd left to negotiate with Gromalian rebels, and the last I'd heard, Demos had gone with Priska. Besides, Demos was an inflexible bastard. Vicer would be deep in Aprotha by now, attempting to convince the hybrids to travel south to the Fey lands, but he might have people on the ground. If he didn't, he could probably put a team together. Scrawling a quick note of my own, I took my pigeon out of her cage. I didn't understand how the birds knew which of us to travel to, but Lorien had simply told us to clearly state the name of the person we wanted to contact. Take this to Vicer, I said. Chapter 2. Pain erupted behind Medinia's closed eyelids as awareness slowly crept in. A strangled gasp escaped her lips as she attempted to curl to the side, only to be met with the heavy resistance of Fey iron manacles. The air felt stolen from her lungs, and beneath the overwhelming pain, a blind terror gnawed at her. The voices around her came into focus. She's awake. I told you she'd wake up. The harsh reality of being a prisoner set in, and Medinia recalled Demos' words about the first rule, no crying, or it's over. Swallowing down the lump in her throat, she took a shaky breath and attempted to push the hair off her face. But her hands, bound by the dark iron manacles, remained unresponsive. The cell, dimly lit by a solitary light orb, confined her within damp, cracked stone walls. A guard, adorned in Eprathan colors, leaned against the bars with a disinterested grin. Medinia's surroundings offered little solace as she realized the weight of her captivity. Cavis, Lorien, Demos, and Asinia were conspicuously absent. Panic surged as she wondered where they were and how long she had been imprisoned. The guard's leering grin vanished as Medinia locked eyes with him. Determination replaced fear as she silently vowed not to show weakness. You don't look like much, hybrid heir, the guard taunted, but Medinia chose to ignore the provocation. Instead, she examined her bruised and aching body. Her elbow throbbed, muscles protested, and a stabbing pain pulsed through her temple. But she was alive. Where was Cavis? The guard, now bored, stepped back, revealing the desolate surroundings of her cell. A bucket of water in one corner, an empty one she refused to think about in another. The stone floor and walls, cracked and damp, surrounded her. The bars, a cruel barrier, separated her from a dimly lit corridor where the guard lingered. Attempting to sit up, the room danced before her eyes. The guard's face pressed to the bars came into focus, clean-shaven, missing teeth, and a shock of red hair. Medinia's mind raced, trying to place her location. This wasn't the dungeon beneath Regnar's castle. So, where was she? The guard's grin faded as Medinia continued to stare back at him. You don't look like much, hybrid heir, he repeated, but Medinia's silence seemed to unnerve him, and the smile dropped from his face. As Medinia struggled against the dizziness, memories flashed in her mind. Cavis with a web covering one side of his face, the shock in his eyes when he realized he was acting against his own free will. Lorien, Demos, and Asinia had to be alive. She refused to consider any alternative. I once told you that until you faced up to the reality of your life, you would continue to be a victim to it. And my reality is this, I'm in love with you, she recalled Cavis' words. Medinia hadn't said it back then, keeping the profound emotions locked within her. If she died here, Lorien would never know how she felt. I'm in love with you too, echoed Lorien's voice in her mind. The narrative shifted to the caverns where Demos, Acinia, and others battled a monstrous creature. The urgency and danger escalated as they faced the creature's relentless onslaught. Medinia's absence weighed heavily on their minds, fueling their determination to overcome the perilous situation. The creature, with tree-trunk legs, spikes, and yellow eyes burning with hunger, posed a formidable challenge. Acinia's crossbow bolts proved ineffective, and the creature roared in pain but pressed on toward a pile of bodies, a trap set by Medinia's allies. In a strategic move, Medinia armed herself with a fey-made dagger, well aware that her survival meant securing the safety of her friends. Every minute spent in the treacherous caverns brought them closer to their goal, reaching Prisca and defeating the creature. The battle unfolded with intensity, Acinia aiming her bolts, Demos slashing with his sword, and Medinia thrusting her fey-made dagger at the creature's neck. Blood sprayed, and the creature retaliated, slamming into Medinia. The struggle for survival reached its peak as Acinia, defying Demos' warnings, ventured closer to the wounded creature. The climax of the battle saw Acinia grievously injured, flung across the cavern by the creature's powerful leg. Demos, Medinia, and Acinia fought relentlessly, each move calculated to exploit the creature's vulnerabilities. The tension mounted until, finally, the creature succumbed to its injuries, bringing a momentary reprieve. The aftermath revealed the toll on the group, Demos wounded, Acinia unconscious and in need of urgent medical attention. Medinia's focus shifted to ensuring their survival, and a new plan emerged. Get Demos and Acinia to a healer and, if needed, proceed alone to find Prisca. In the Queen's narrative, political intrigue and tension unfolded in the court. The Queen, disdainful of Sabium, sensed a shift in his plans and the potential danger he posed. Sabium's mysterious departure fueled her concern, setting the stage for a complex web of plots and power struggles. The Queen's efforts to gather information intensified as she sought to unravel Sabium's plans. The narrative skillfully wove together themes of survival, loyalty, and political machinations, creating a gripping tale where characters faced imminent threats and sought to outmaneuver their adversaries. As news reached Medinia of her capture and imprisonment in one of Sabium's hidden dungeons, the stakes soared. The Queen, aware of Sabium's malevolent intentions, urgently sought information to plan Medinia's rescue. The convergence of narratives highlighted the relentless pursuit of freedom and survival against formidable odds. In the intricate tapestry of the story, the characters grappled with challenges, pain, and the complexities of their relationships. The narrative unfolded in a crescendo of tension, leaving the reader eagerly anticipating the next twists and turns in this gripping tale of survival, defiance, and the unbreakable bonds that held the characters together.